Our first athletic banquet there at Evergreen Junior High School was arranged by Jerry Difford. He was one of the coaches and just a really sharp fellow. Had nothing to do with it whatsoever, but attend. The kids were well behaved. A lot of the parents were there with their boys, and it was just very nice. I had no idea who the speaker was going to be. Hadn't inquired, hadn't been curious. He introduced a Coach Sullivan. I could tell that I probably was supposed to know who Coach Sullivan was, but I didn't, other than that somebody said, well, it's Patty Sullivan's dad. Patty Sullivan, Class A, #1 kind of student, fine young woman in every way. So you got some respect for the guy right away. Got a daughter like that. Well, Jerry had arranged that whole thing, I think, on a budget of less than $50. So I'm sure Mr. Sullivan volunteered to do this. And at the time, I had no idea what a treat we were in store for. When he stood up and started talking to us, not kind of fellow that, you'd think had been a big stud athlete or anything, looked more like what he probably claimed to be, a teacher. And he told the story of having needed a job back there about the time I was born, back there in the Depression times. And he needed it bad. And the job that he apparently could get was as teacher, and I think maybe even teacher principal, the whole ball of wax. And if you take the job, Mr. Sullivan, you have to coach basketball. And he said, I wasn't a basketball player. I didn't really know anything about basketball, but it was either agree to coach it or you don't get the job. So he said, I said, okay. Well, he said he went out thinking that, small town, not many boys, they couldn't be expecting much. It worked out all right. Of course, those small towns are sometimes the hardest teams to coach because they're the whole thing, and if you don't do well with that, you're in the doghouse. But he said he had the kids out there and had them playing a little bit of basketball. He noticed that one boy could run backwards about as fast as he could forward, and he could see that that was an advantage, so he decided to have all the boys work hard on getting to where they could run backwards as fast as they could run forwards. And they all got better. And then he said, I noticed that this boy or that boy had a particular move or a particular shot that was pretty good, and I'd have everybody say, hey, watch him, now let's all do that, practice that. In other words, he built his team up from what he had. And you can just imagine his excitement in seeing, whoa, this is really working. These kids are getting better. And what about those kids? Oh, you think that kids don't know what's going on? That excitement must have grown like a mushroom cloud. Well, they won games. They won a lot of games. Somebody I suppose, I don't know how, found out about it back at the national level, and I'm sure they did it as an oddity. Invited tiny Bennett, Colorado, and I'm telling you, Bennett, Colorado, when you say it's a crossroads town, it's that, I guess still today. I haven't been there for 20 years, but I've been through there many a time 20 and 30 years ago, and I mean it was little then, and I understand it wasn't much bigger back there in the Depression days. They went back there, and I believe they placed in the top 5. You kids that are computer whizzes, Google it up. Get the whole story, not what this old guy remembers. Imagine a tiny, tiny school with a tiny handful of kids, and they go to a national tournament and come home placing in the top 5. Whoa! You know what? There were more guys out for basketball the next year. I don't even bet some people moved to get in on this, get their boys to play for a team this good. Even had enough kids that year. They split the team at times. Oh, and Colorado Springs, Denver, etc. We're glad to play them. Again, bring that oddity in. Going to get a crowd. Have a good gate. There's a story in there, I think, that at one time they had a split team, half going down to Pueblo and half to the Colorado Springs or Denver area, and they beat both of those big schools on the same night with a split squad. But Success breeds jealousy. The Colorado Activities Association rules were carefully examined, and they were prohibited from going back to that national tournament the following year. Too bad. I tell you, I thought it was a spoof at the time. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, and then realized this man's serious. And I can tell you without any qualification of this, it was the best motivational speech, the best entertaining speech, the most awesome speech by a sports figure I've ever heard. And I've heard Buck Showalter and Bill Walton give talks at Yuma to sports banquets. Coach Sullivan, I can't even remember your first name, but it was a pleasure and honor to hear you. To realize what can happen sometimes. It's an honor to have heard you. And Patty Sullivan, I bet you're still out there, and God bless you and your family. It was a pleasure to know you, for you, and also because you are Coach Sullivan's daughter.